Hi everyone, this is Francesca from Social Work Portal. Welcome to today's session. I'm going to walk you through social work interventions. We'll cover the most effective methods, real-world examples, and practical strategies you can start applying right away. After this video, you should have a clearer picture of which social work intervention method fits with which situation, and how to make that decision confidently in your own practice. At the end, I'll show you where to find a case management tool that will help you track intervention notes, client goals, appointments, and more. So let's jump into it. Before we get into specific methods, let's make sure we're clear on what a social work intervention actually is. 4 things define a strong intervention approach. A social work intervention is a deliberate, intentional action a practitioner takes to help a client address a challenge, build capacity, or move toward a goal. Notice the word deliberate. Interventions are not accidental or reactive. They are chosen, and that choice matters enormously. It's contextual, and this piece is especially important. What works for one client in one setting may be completely wrong for another client in a different context. That fit between the method and the person and the situation is what the rest of the video is really about. It's scalable. You may be having one conversation or doing a multi-year treatment plan. You could also be focused on a single person or an entire community. Social work intervention should fit the scale. And the measurable piece is also worth emphasizing because it's often undervalued. If you don't have a way to track whether an intervention is producing change, you don't actually know if it's working, which makes it very hard to adjust course when you need to. The next foundational concept is the 3 levels of social work intervention: micro, mezzo, and macro. Understanding which level you're working at shapes everything about how you approach the situation. Micro is the most familiar for most practitioners. This is direct work with an individual or a family, including clinical therapy, case management, crisis response, and hands-on service delivery. The goal is change for a specific person or household. Mezzo moves up a level to groups and organizations, facilitating a caregiver support group, running a skills training program in a school, or helping an organization redesign its intake process. These are all mezzo-level interventions. You're creating a benefit for multiple people at once through a shared system or setting. Macro goes further still, targeting the systems, policies, and structural conditions that shape people's lives. Advocacy, community organizing, policy analysis, and program development are all macro interventions. Now let's get into the specific evidence-based methods. 2 of the most widely used across social work and behavioral health are cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, and motivational interviewing, which most people know as MI. CBT works by helping clients identify the thought patterns that are driving unhelpful emotions or behaviors. The core idea is that how we think about a situation directly affects how we feel and what we do. A social worker using CBT with an anxious client might help them catch catastrophic thinking and practice replacing that with more balanced thought. Cognitive behavioral therapy is structured and measurable, which makes it a natural fit in settings with defined treatment goals and reporting requirements. Motivational interviewing takes a completely different approach. Instead of teaching or directing, MI practitioners use open questions, reflective listening, and affirmations to help clients articulate their own reasons for change. The practitioner's job is not to convince the client of anything, but to create the conditions where the client convinces themselves. That's a subtle but powerful shift, and it makes MI particularly effective in substance use treatment and any situation where a client is on the fence about making a change. Our next two frameworks are solution-focused therapy and trauma-informed practice. They work a little differently from CBT and MI in that they're more about how you orient to the work than the specific set of techniques. Solution-focused therapy, or SFT, flips the standard clinical orientation on its head. Instead of spending session time exploring the history and roots of a client's problem, SFT asks the client to imagine what life looks like when the problem is already solved. And then it works backwards to find the small, concrete steps that move toward that picture. It's especially practical in short-term settings or on high-volume caseloads where the number of available sessions is limited. Using a social work software with a goal tracking feature is especially helpful here because it makes it easy for you to keep track of the client's progress without taking up a lot of time. Trauma-informed practice is not a single technique, but rather a framework that shapes every interaction. A trauma-informed social worker prioritizes safety, trust, transparency, and client choice in everything they do. They understand that many clients have histories of adversity that affect how they engage with services and relationships. Here's a case study example of what a small shift in approach can do. A school social worker named Priya was working with a student who kept shutting down in the sessions. Priya hadn't changed her technique, but she switched to a trauma-informed lens, slowing down, offering the student choices about how the session ran, and making the space feel predictable and safe. The student started engaging. The method didn't change, but the delivery did. That's the power of trauma-informed practice. Now we have two more essential intervention approaches: strength-based practice and crisis intervention. They're very different in pace and orientation, but both are indispensable. Strength-based interventions represent a real philosophical shift in how social workers engage with clients. Instead of organizing the work around problems, diagnoses, and deficits, strength-based practice asks, what is already working here? How do we build on it? In practice, this means assessing resilience, cultural strengths, support networks, and past successes alongside the presenting challenge. The ANZA assessment, or Adult Needs and Strengths Assessment, is a good one to use when working with strength-based interventions. You can also pull any strength-based questions into a typical assessment or intake. Crisis intervention is the opposite in terms of pace. It is fast, structured, and safety first. The 7-stage model moves through assessing lethality, building rapport, identifying the problem, exploring feelings, generating alternatives, developing an action plan, and the follow-up. In a real crisis, that sequence happens fluidly, not mechanically. Getting the client safe is always the first, most immediate goal. Here's the most important practical tip for crisis intervention. Your team should train in advance on a clear, rehearsed protocol before they ever need it. No one should be figuring out their crisis process for the first time in the middle of an emergency. Okay, before we close out, let's look at macro-level community interventions and then a quick decision framework you can use to choose the right intervention approach in any situation. Community-level interventions work at the structural level: advocacy, policy analysis, community organizing, coalition building, and program development. They don't serve a single client directly, but they change the conditions under which entire populations live and access services. When it comes to choosing the right intervention, 4 questions help frame the decision. First, what does the client actually want to change? How ready are they? An intervention that a client doesn't buy into rarely works, no matter how well evidenced it is. Second, what does the research show works for this population and this type of problem? Evidence-based practice means using that research to guide your choice. Third, what does your setting support? And what can your caseload actually sustain? The best intervention you can't implement consistently is worse than a simpler one done well. And fourth, is the method culturally meaningful and appropriate for this client? Fit matters across every dimension, including culture and background. Use these 4 questions as a quick checklist before you commit to an approach, and hold your initial choice loosely. The best social workers adjust when something isn't working, rather than pushing harder with the wrong tool. So we've learned that a social work intervention is any deliberate, intentional action taken to help a client move toward a goal. And the best intervention is always the one that fits the client, the context, and the evidence base. So would you like to pull all of this together into practice and use one organized system? Some of the screenshots I've showed throughout the video are from the Case Management Hub software. It gives you a secure platform to document interventions, write progress notes, track client goals, create reports, and more. No credit card is needed, and it's free for 21 days for you and up to 9 teammates. Thanks so much for hanging with me and watching my video. If you like this type of content and want to learn more about social services and nonprofit tools and resources, like this video and subscribe to our channel. You'll never miss one of our new exciting videos.